I went to Riverside and something told me, it's like, you need to get up early and you need to make sure you have the right links for him. And I was like, okay, Chuck is getting me in early into a show. Boom, I'm going to arrive. I'm going to be early. And then I started messing around. It was like update. And I hit the update. And I was like, update. I was like, okay, let me scrap it. Let me re-download it. Re-download it. No, would not accept.
Dang.
And then I was like, there's no way. How do I reach him? I was like, okay, podcast at chucktuck.com. And I got a hold of Ellie, and then she was able to figure out a way to get in contact with you. And I got a
Yeah.
hold of my assistant who lives in Atlanta. I'm like,
Oh,
yo,
geez.
yo, I need help.
You know, it's crazy too. Is I just had this, honestly, I had this feeling. Look at your email. And I'm not kidding. I opened it up and it was 30 seconds maybe. And Ellie got the email. It's like, oh, Casey having some problems. So, all right.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for shifting. I know you prefer the other, but I'm glad you're tech savvy and you can sort it out quickly.
The part that was okay is good thing I had my coffee this morning and my, uh, what is it, the CoQ10 thing and to get my brain going because
Yeah.
otherwise I would have forgot my password for Zoom.
Oh no.
And I put in what was in my head and it's like, hey, that worked.
Yeah, that works.
Uh, uh, Christopher, were you having another guest come on? Whitehorse McCoy?
No,
I
that's
said,
that was my music handle.
oh, because I saw additional guests and I thought, what? Okay, we're gonna
Yeah.
have two. So we've got
I'm gonna
both of
be
you.
split in two. The
Yeah.
Navy SEAL on the left and the musician on the right.
Yep. We've got the intellect on one side and we've
Yeah,
got the creative on the
creative.
other.
Yeah, totally.
Uh,
Well, you're
I,
so easy to talk to. This is going to be a great conversation.
yeah, and that's exactly what I want it to be. Is just a conversation, because you know what we're going to talk about. I think is I refer to it as a silent killer when we talk about
Yes.
stress.
Yes.
So, gosh, I had all these notes taken, Christopher, and they're on the
They're on the other
other
side.
side. Yeah. So I'm gonna hate saying it, but I'm gonna fly off the seat of my pants. But I have high interest in what we're going to talk about. But
Yeah.
I really want people to know who you are right off the beginning because
Okay.
you were a Navy SEAL and you're this guy that was in top shape mentally and physically, but you found yourself um, with tension and stress,
Yes.
right? Uh,
Yes.
so if you don't mind, if we just jump right into it, and if you give that little bit of
Okay.
the backstory of
Yeah.
who you are and how you got to that place.
Yeah. What came through for me, speaking with you, is to distill it down. I was humbled by pain,
Mm,
right? So imagine, I look like Adonis. I've got this amazing motor, and I can go all day long. And then on Monday, I go to sleep, and Tuesday, I wake up, and everything's different. And I had no idea what was going on at the time because there was very little literature about how to deal with pain
mhm.
on your own. And the Veterans Administration, they're going to offer me pills and maybe some physical therapy, which I can do on my own. So I was getting nowhere fast. And the more quiet I was about it, the more these symptoms increased and shifted into other systems. And what I mean by that is the first thing I experienced was physical pain in my joints. And then I continued to think like most Navy SEALs think, and I think most high level athletes think, just keep training.
Mhm.
It'll work itself out. And it didn't. It worked itself in and it got more complex. Yet I kept applying that same strategy. Keep moving forward. It doesn't matter. If you have pain, it's okay. Suck it up, right? The message in the SEAL teams was suck it up. And I sucked it up. And the more I sucked it up, the deeper the pain went into my body till it got into the center of my left hip. And then there was no getting away from it. It was there every second of the day, throbbing like someone was sticking an ice pick into the middle of your hip.
Okay. It's, I'm doing this reaction because I I want to say I know my body, and you're the first person that's described something that I experience when I know that my body is tired and weak. Is that left hip and the hip bone
Yes.
like an ice pick, just stabbing in it constantly until I get my body to rest. So sorry to interrupt, but that was like, wow, you're the first guy that's ever said that. And that's exactly what I experienced.
Well, this is great because the information on that I've investigated is really simple. When your left hip, the words that you shared that clued me into this was you said when I'm tired and I'm weak. Well, in traditional Chinese medicine, every organ controls a joint, and the spleen and the pancreas, they control the left and the right side of the hip. And so one of the downsides of having spent more energy than you have to give is weakness and tiredness. Well, guess what's going to happen? Your medial hamstring is going to start to get too short and too tight. And when that does, it's going to compress the joint into the socket because the medial hamstring connects on the inside on the back of your legs. So, yes, you're the only other person who reflected back to me that what I shared made sense to them.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think a lot of this, we're going to be talking about body intelligence, body awareness, BQ,
Yeah.
which adds up all that stuff. So this is very important. And you do have a book. You're an author
Yes.
of Free for Life, and it's talking about getting away from the tension and pain and things like that. Am I
Yeah.
correct on that?
Yeah. Tension, stress, and pain. I mean, the first third of the book is a biography, right? So you
Hmm.
get to understand how I got into the mess that I got into. So I bring up some of the childhood trauma, the childhood stressors that I was dealing with that were very complex as a young person from womb until 13. And then I go into a little bit about SEAL training and the SEAL teams. And then the book shifts really into philosophy and science because I want people to understand that if you can grasp the algorithm for dis-ease, all you need to do is reverse engineer it. And if you do that successfully enough, you're going to be able to step out of the long-term discomfort that you're dealing with. And I feel like when someone achieves something that's never been achieved, they have a fiduciary responsibility to share that with other people so that they can now make sound choices. But without information, right? How can I make a good choice around my body on where to spend my time, where to spend my energy, where to spend my resources? And then the third part of the book is the systems that I used in order to walk myself out of pain and into comfort, out of low energy into inexhaustible, abundant energy, into a hyperactive, fragmented mind, into clear, directed, focused thought, and from a highly anxious emotional body to an extremely grounded, peace filled um, emotional experience.
And you do have a couple of different courses on your website. And I think one of them you have like an 8 module step on how
Yes.
to uh, help yourself in this. Can you mention a couple of the
Yeah.
steps or?
Yeah. Yeah. The eight stepping stones to inner freedom, right?
Mhm.
And there's stuff that you can do with the body, and then there's stuff that you can do with the energy. And so the physical stuff is a little bit more complex. And so it's very easy to teach the energetic stuff. So in the modules, I give 35-minute to an hour piece of education on food, sexuality, to
Oh,
mention a few, communication,
I'm
setting
gonna
boundaries.
say pause for a second. This is the one thing about Zoom that's awful is you actually paused and everything you said for the past 30 seconds was missed when you first talked about the first one of your modules there.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
No.
So when we look at the modules in the eight stepping stones to inner freedom, there's eight, and eight of them each deal with a different aspect of our life that I think are important to deal with. Boundaries, sexuality, communication, uh, food, all these different kinds of things that every human has to deal with every day, because my body of work is called true body intelligence. Well, if your energy is stagnant, Chuck, guess what happens? You have access to less energy. So what did you do this morning? You popped up, you said, okay, let me get my CoQ10, let me bang out a cup of coffee. And that started to get your heart to pump a bit faster and the contractions to be a bit stronger, which drove more energy into your brain, right? So you can be more present. So the brain is one organ of 16 major organs. Well, in each module, what I'm doing is I'm covering two organs in each module. And then I'm giving you a practical, energetic, deep meditation that you can do in order to transmute the negative energy sitting in that part of your body back into high functioning frequency, right? So everything's about energy, vibration, and frequency. So
Okay.
I use a system in there called Body of Light. So we do education and then what's called a TMM, a transmutative meditation that lasts about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the subject matter. So what they get is a deep education plus a way to transmute the things that are inside of them that are corrupting their nervous system.
Okay. Just so the audience knows, you're not just this guy who just wrote this stuff down because you said, I figured it out. You actually have the science and the education behind this
Yes.
from Eastern medicine
Yes.
and the science, right?
And Western medicine. So
And
I went
Western.
to the Pacific College of Science
Mhm.
in San Diego, and I spent about 2.5 years there. And then when I moved to Los Angeles after coming back from Iceland, I went to Yosan University. And so my background is in traditional Chinese medicine, meridian theory, and pathology. And then I went on to study with a guy named Montauk Chia in Chiang Mai, Thailand, the Universal Tao Healing System. And he's written 52 different books and is highly educated in those types of practices because I only really want to be learning from people who have systems that you can teach the people so they can work on themselves.
Okay.
Like one of the challenges I have with the allopathic model is I go to you, you diagnose me, you give me a solution, but you don't give me anything that I can do to myself.
Hmm.
And so then we create this codependent dependent model. And I've always believed that freedom is essential in growth. And what I mean by that is this: when I teach you how to do the work that I'm doing to you, you're free to engage in it anytime you want. So if you want to have more result, you can spend more time. If you want to have more result, you can put in more effort. If you want to have more result, you can be more consistent. And if I can get you to be consistent and using powerful forces for change and feeling like you can fit it into your lifestyle, now I know we're doing something really special.
Yeah. It's I understand that it's oftentimes if we go for that solution from a traditional, I'm just going to use the word doctor, the traditional doctor, we're making that schedule, we're on their schedule, we go there, they give us, like I said, they evaluate, they say, this is what it is. They send you on your way. And by the way, if you want to get further or need more help, come on back and let's schedule you in again. And I'm not able to do these things at, I'm going to just say at my leisure to put in more effort to get more out of it. I'm always dependent on somebody else.
Yeah. And I think in the healing process, the healing process is very growth and healing process is very personal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some people are into transformation, right? There's a small portion of the population that like that gets them going. You look at the biohacking community and they're like everything they're doing from what they're drinking and what they're eating and they're measuring their sleep and they've got these cool mats on their beds and they're just trying to maximize human potential. But other people are very uninterested in that kind of thing. And so for those people, I think if you can give them a 15 to 20-minute program that they can use each day, it's realistic that they're going to show up for themselves. But if
Yeah.
you have to give someone 60-minute program, I think most people are going to eventually stop doing what you're teaching them.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah.
It's, I think it's, we have a mental block as well where we know what we need to do, but we just don't do it because we don't want to put that time and effort into it or that much,
Yeah.
even though we want to, but we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, when I look at humanity and I look at myself, I think humans have been severely strained for a very long time. And what I mean by that is this, is they're used to excessive strain, especially in the United States. If you look at most Americans and you go back 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 generations, what are you going to find? You're going to find that almost all Americans, their ancestors were peasants in some country, whether it's Yugoslavia, whether it's Russia, whether it's South Africa, whether it's Thailand, they were on the lower end of the podium. Okay. And so when you look at the history and you go back, through the epigenetic markers and the epigenetic stressors that were stored and passed off to your body from your ancestors, you're going to see that they were used to strain. Like strain was a natural function. And the benefit of strain is it helps your growth to a point. And then when you're highly engaged in strain, generation after generation after generation, you don't know anything else. And so that becomes your model for success. And so I think it's very difficult for humans to put in the time of energy that it would take in order to get out of that sense of strain because they don't know who they are without that. I mean, imagine in the future where AI has come in and organized everything, and you have like 18 hours a day free time, day after day, week after week, month after month. Humans won't even know what to do, right? They'll be manufacturing problems so that
Yes.
they can stay in that strained state. So, the unique thing that I do is that I remove all the excessive strain out of your physical body, meaning your structural tissues. And then we go through very specific energetic processes that allow you to remove it from your epigenetic history so that you no longer know who you are through strain and struggle and strife. You know who you are through ease and grace. And that's what you're interested in: ease and grace, peace and simplicity.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I just want to throw out that the way I think about this as far as stress goes,
Yeah,
stress comes in many different forms, and one type of stress may not be stressful for somebody else.
right.
And why I'm saying that is because of the fact that, kind of like what you're saying, many of us live on stress. It gives us that sense of purpose. And then
Yeah,
when there's not that stress, we are also stressed because we have no sense of purpose and direction. And then we manifest things. So,
yes. And then we manifest problems in
mhm,
order to continue to be under strain. And so there's a difference between stress
okay.
which is positive stress and negative stress. Most humans that an adult human is under strain,
Mm.
right? That's like stress exponential, right? That's exponential stress. So you're absolutely correct. When I, let me give you an example, right? How many people do you know that they pack right before they go to the airport?
Oh, I know at least one. That's me.
Right?
But a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot, right? So, well, you could have easily spent like 15 minutes packing the night before. So you woke up and you're like, okay, everything's by the door. I'm totally ready to go. And all I got to do is get out of bed in the morning, eat some breakfast. But no, you want to be under strain, right? And so then you get up and you're scrambling around, grabbing these last things over here and there. And you get to your car and like, oh, I forgot that one thing. And you run back upstairs. Da, da. So you're in this process of creating more strain than is necessary because that's what humans are used to.
Hmm.
Like, if you look at America, think about this for a minute, Chuck. Did the middle class Europeans move to America initially? No.
No, I stay put.
Yeah, you're going to stay put. Why? Because if you're middle class European, that means one, you're educated. Okay. Two, it means you're probably an entrepreneur of some sort, and you already have positional leverage in your community. So why would you leave there to come all the way over here? So the people who came here were trying to establish themselves in a new community and society that would allow them to begin to have rights to create their own reality. Well, all of that came with an excessive amount of strain. And that is what is stuck inside people's nervous systems. And I typically talk about stress. I typically talk about tension, and I typically talk about trauma, but I rarely mention strain. So there's something going on between you and this vibe that we're creating that's letting me go a little bit deeper.
I'm not strained. No stress today. But what you're saying too is about people in general who uh, thrive might be the wrong word, but I
Yeah,
do believe that some people do thrive on that and they cannot
yeah,
function any other way. Is they, we, I will
yeah,
put things off to the last minute only because that's how I live. And it's probably not a good thing, at least not in the long run.
yeah. I mean, in long term, it has its effects on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, look at Americans. We live on coffee and stimulants, right? 4 hour energy drinks, Red Bull, coffee. Some people are going for green tea and matcha and they're going down that road, but they're looking for that. Why? Because their base state of energy is so low, they have to steal the energy from 2025 just to get through 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And so every human is only given a certain amount of energy at birth. And they're spending their capital instead of spending their interest.
Mm,
And our ancestors did that out of necessity, right?
right.
And then if we go back another 10 generations, they did that for survival. Without your ability to do that, you literally wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
So now we're in a place in this interesting time in humanity where we can actually thrive, but we're still operating out of an old paradigm in terms of stress, strain, tension, and distortion, either structurally, energetically, emotionally, or psychologically. And so we have all this space, we have all this extra time, we have all these tools. Like you can hop on YouTube right now, right? And I can go to Chuck Tuck and I can find tons of powerful people that you've interviewed. But the question is, are the listeners willing to take action
Mm-hmm.
on the advice that they're getting? And so, I think it's going to take a little while longer for all humans to be uploaded with these profound levels of perspective and experience to be able to start to take heartfelt action to their own benefit. 'Cause-
Yeah, and that's where I think we touch on a little bit. There's so many people know what to do. They know what they're supposed to do, but there's that mental block. I don't, it's not a, I'm going to say that for majority of people, it's not a physical block. It's a mental block, a mind shift that they have to do. They have to change something in the
okay.
mind to help the body. It's kind of like the mind has to listen to the body, and the body needs to listen to the mind, kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's a war going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the war that's going on is who's going to have control of your life. And so the body says, okay, well, if you're going to try to take too much control, I'm going to slow things down. Okay, the brain says, um, and then the brain says to the body, hey, listen, you're going to listen to me now. I need you right now. And then the body reluctantly goes along.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the body, the brain, and the nervous system and the emotions, you need to think of conscious, unconscious, subconscious, preconscious, and superconscious, right? And so each one of these levels of consciousness controls and communicates differently through your body. So your brain is conscious, okay? It controls thought. Your emotions are unconscious. What does that mean, unconscious? That means that there's no thought in the emotional body. The emotional body is simply on feeling. And then you got the subconscious, which is way down deep into the physical body. And then you've got the superconscious and the preconscious, which is going to be your spirit and your soul. And so, how do you get these five levels of consciousness to be able to operate cohesively together and trust who's in charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot to corral your mind to be able to get it to listen to your body. But when nervous systems are in an excessive state of strain, so are our brains.
Yeah. And so, how do we make that difference for ourselves to make that change? Is there a formula, or I know we're talking about certain methods, but is there something that's simple that you could throw out there for the audience?
Yeah, the simple thing, like the first step, honestly, is honesty, right? Like you have to out yourself. Like call somebody up that you know, right? And say, listen, I've told myself for the last 30 days that I was going to get up and go to the gym at 6:30, and I haven't been able to do it. Simply by doing that, you're letting your mind know I'm outing you to other people. And the
So,
mind goes, man, I don't want everybody to know that I'm not doing the things that I said I would do. And so I'm going to get up and get you motivated to get to the gym tomorrow morning so you can honor your word. And so really it's about self-esteem, right? And
yeah.
how do you how do you build self-esteem? Now there's different types of esteem. There's inner self-esteem and there's outer self-esteem. For me, I'm a transpersonal being, so it's really easy for me to build outer self-esteem, right? And outer self-esteem is how I'm going to show up for you, how I'm going to show up for things outside of me, right? Inner self-esteem is much more difficult, especially for transpersonal beings. And, 1/3 of the planet is transpersonal in nature, meaning that they go into someone else's story to learn about reality. And so that's easy for transpersonals. Personal profiles, it's much easier to invite people in to serve your agenda. And
Hmm.
so if I'm so busy building outer self esteem, because the world around me has told me that selflessness is more important than selfishness, then this little child that has learned all of these strategies from the world around him that informs him or her constantly that being selfish is wrong, then I have these competing limiting beliefs. for my adult part of myself. I know that going and doing goodness for me is great. But in my precognitive years, right, subconscious precognition, womb to seven, unconscious precognition, 7 to 13, I've been informed and reinforced to be selfless. So, no,
Yeah, yeah, and I'm jumping in on that one because I think that's so important because, like you said, from that early age, we've been taught that don't be so selfish, and which I tend not to agree to a certain degree because I always have believed the most person in the world is you yourself. If you can't do for yourself, you're not going to be able to do for others. So hopefully people get, in their minds, like I said, that a lot of these things are not selfless or selfish acts. They're they in turn, I think, benefit you and those around you if you can help yourself. Is that okay to think of that way?
yeah, I think the thing that, to your point, I think probably the most important thing is to be able to be honest with how you operate,
Mm,
right? Now, when I was younger, I was self-focused, right? I was operating like a personal profile. So my first 30 years, it was my agenda, what I was going to get from this world for myself and how I was going to be able to get that done. And I was recruiting people, anyone and everyone, to help me live out my agenda. And what that led me into, because that actually goes against my actual nature, is that led me to a life of pain. And so, as an innate transpersonal being, until I learned to invest into others, I was going to be in pain continuously.
yeah,
And
it's that makes sense too. It's not when I say that it's okay to be selfish. It's not a you don't want to be selfish to the point where you're using others for your gain, because that eventually will bring pain.
yeah,
Like I said, pain to you both mentally and physically, I would imagine,
and emotionally.
and emotionally. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
can't forget that.
because you're losing relationships and you don't understand why.
Hmm.
Well, the good thing about your body is this, is your brain, well, it's in your body. Your emotions, they begin and emanate from your body. Your energy begins in your body and moves outward. So if I can take my body and I can make it truly intelligent, then what's going to happen is I'm going to move into a state that I call neutrality. And in neutrality, I add nothing and I take nothing away. I simply see things for what they are. And I instinctually know what's the correct thing that wants to happen right now. Meaning, what is the moment asking from me? And then I get to serve the moment powerfully.
Okay, I want to ask you, uh, what is more important, the body or the mind, the brain, or is it an equal balance?
I think what's most important is the first step to take is to put your body in balance, because when you put your body in balance, you get access to your brain. And now your subconscious and your unconscious and your conscious mind can work together cohesively. So a lot of people, they're in their heads. And the way you can tell when someone's in their head is you stand to the side of them and look at their posture from their side, okay? And if their chin is slightly in front of their chest, they're letting you know that they're coming from their head. If their chest is in front of their chin, they're letting you know that they come from their heart. And what I mean by that is this: the heart is instinctual, the brain is analytical. And
Mm-hmm.
so when the body is balanced, the brain can listen to the demands of the heart. When the body's out of balance, the brain can only listen to its analysis. And yet it is without the support and lacks emotional stability because there's no connection through the heart. And so the 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 mission that I'm on is mind driven rather than heart focused. And
Okay.
in the end, we know that in the beginning all there was love. And in the end, love is all that matters. And so any kind of relationship that you have, whether it's with your work professionally, whether it's with an animal, you got a dog or a cat, or you're married, you got a husband or a wife, or you have children, or you have an interpersonal romantic relationship, any one of these relationships that are important to you, they require heart and mind. And so you've got to be able to analyze and understand what the big picture is, what the immediate need is mentally, and then you've got to be able to take the instinctual action to be able to meet those needs from a heart-centered space. And so together, what we want to do is we want to unify heart and mind. We want to unify body and soul. And so if we can unify the emotions through the breath, and if we can unify the mind and the analysis, if we can unify the body and the instinct, and we can unify the spirit and the soul and the energy, now we're operating as an amalgamated being. And that gives us the opportunity to be in the now.
Well, I guess the Beatles had it right with that song. All you need is love.
All you need is love. Well, all you need is love and analysis and emotion and abundant amounts of energy. And if you can have, all four of those things, then you start shifting out of the generational base state of strain into ease and grace. And when you're in ease and grace, you slow down the aging process significantly. Like I'm going to be 60 soon, right?
Mhm.
So I have more energy than every single one of the people that I work with, okay, that are much younger than me, okay. My posture is better than anybody that I know. I sleep deep. I wake up feeling rested on minimal amounts of sleep. Um, and I'm present to serve whatever comes in front of me. I have what I need to make that moment amazing, memorable, and magical. Well, let's say the opposite is true. You got a body full of pain, okay? You got energy that's insufficient. You got a mind that's overactive and has fragmented thoughts. And you've got emotions that are anxious and ungrounded. What do you think the end result of your life experience is going to be?
Pretty darn painful, hectic, and crazy.
Yeah, right. And so, what I want the listeners to walk away from, even if it's difficult for you to take action, what I think is the most important part of this at first is understanding. Because if you can understand how you got here, and then your life process isn't only up to you, it's also been up to what your ancestors handed off to you, then at least you can go, I understand why I'm being that way now. And now that you have understanding, it makes it a lot easier to take unconditional, heartfelt action to your own benefit. But without understanding and a deep dive into your family's history, you have no idea why Saturdays and Sundays and Friday and Thursday nights you spend the majority of your time inebriated.
Mhm.
You have no idea why, when there's a break from work, you're stepping outside every second you can to smoke a cigarette, right? When you wake up in the morning and you feel exhausted, you don't know why because you don't know your history. And when people are underneath complex demands, they always lean on their history, meaning they lean on the behaviors of their ancestors used to survive the circumstances that were overwhelming. And so the
It's
most prudent action that I believe a human can take is to understand the history of their ancestors. If you're Irish, look into how the Irish dealt with things. If you're Russian, look at how the Russians dealt with things. If you're in the United States and you're Native American Indian, look at how the Native American Indians handled things. They're going to be showing you. If you're English, look at how the English have been doing things. They're going to be showing you through their history, and they're going to show you the strategies that they leaned on when they were overwhelmed and excessively strained. And you're going to be applying the daily acceptable drugs that everyone uses in order to cope.
Wow. It's that's pretty deep and pretty powerful. And yeah, history plays a lot into everything. Christopher Lee Mayer, I just want to say this topic could go on forever, but
Yes,
it's also, to me, there are simple solutions. It's just the fact that we need to get to that point. And like you're saying, to know your history of your
yes,
ancestors. Once
yes.
again, I want to remind folks that your book is free for life, and you do have a website. And what is it? The
The
bodyintelligence.com.
the website is
True,
truebodyintelligence.com.
sorry, truebodyintelligence.com.
Yeah, and we named it that way for this because the purpose of the work is to build you a truly intelligent body. Like, I love cars, so I like looking at resto mods. I like to see when people take, 911s from 1973 and they update them to like current. I like when people take like 1969 Mustang Boss 429 that's been sitting in a junkyard and they turn it into like a car from 2024, right? And what I want people to know is that you can do the same thing with your body. You could be 50 years old right now. You could be 49. You could be 61. You could be 33. If you want a current young body, all you have to do is make your body truly intelligent through some strategies that you can learn about in Free for Life, or you go to the website. There's free information there.
Huh?
Go to YouTube. There's free information. True Body Intelligence. Right? Go to Instagram, Christopher Lee Maher, and I give a download every other day or every day, depending on the week. Like the information is there. The most important thing, Chuck, is they create a successful pattern interrupt. And you're going to start to hear that as a buzzword over the next 3 or 4 years because I'm going to shout off every mountaintop to people go, a successful pattern interrupt. Oh, I have to interrupt the pattern of my ancestors so I can create my own reality.
There you go, folks. Listen, go to Christopher Lee Maher's website, find him on social media. Again, this has been a fantastic topic and discussion. So after we close out, you and I can talk cars.
Okay, great.
So again, Christopher, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening. And look, find me everything that I can help you with. I will do my best to do so.